Petek, thanks so much for joining. Really excited to have you here today. So we have Petek Hawkins on the Zoom video. We're going to do a great conversation around her career, get some tips and best practices around sales enablement leadership. So I'm really excited to dive into this conversation, Petek.
Thank you, Ted.
Cool.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, let's start at the top. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll start from there. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Petek. I've been in sales for over 15 years, as long as my adult life, I would say. And so fun fact, I was born in Arizona, but when I say that, people kind of tilt their head and they're like, really? Because I have that slight accent. I was born in Arizona, but I got to travel the world and live in different places. That's where my accent is coming from. And why I bring that up is because globalization, global workplace, and global anything and everything is super exciting to me. So I focus on that a lot. Actually, the way I got my first scholarship at college was through going to this World Globalization program, working with the Japanese government over video conferencing. So that's been really exciting. For fun, I teach yoga. Yoga is my passion. I am also married to another sales professional, so we have a lot of sales conversations. And I live in Colorado, which is super outdoorsy, so lots of hiking, camping, and just seeing the nature type of thing. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like you've had just a fun upbringing, and it's brought you out into the world of tech. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit into your career and some of the roles you've been at. I know you started your career out as a quota carrying sales rep, but maybe walk us through that evolution of being a salesperson first, what you learned there, and we'll kind of tie that into your roles of late.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into sales when I was in college. It was just a really fun way for me to get to meet new people. That's kind of how it all started. Then after college, I got into business-to-business sales with a technology company. And there was a joke about that because if you survive in that company for more than a year, anyone will snatch you. It was called C Beyond. And what was really cool about that is the culture was amazing. And most importantly, there was a training that was delivered when you were onboarding. And that training really made it possible for really high performance to go there and crush that. So I stayed with that company I started out as a sales rep, going from door to door, really being an outside sales representative, then became a team lead because, I was just hitting my numbers, and then a sales manager. From there, went to Service Source. As Service Source, I represented AT&T, British Telecom, and Telus companies, and those were some really great fun times. I would say that's where I kind of learned being an actual manager, and we did a lot of forecasting, territory building, and dealing with millions and working with AT&T, Telus, and British Telecom, which wasn't really easy. From there, jumped to a company that was a startup here in Colorado, and they do digital signage and digital directories. They didn't have really a sales team established, so I got in there as a sales director and then ended up as sales and marketing VP, and grew that team to outside sales representatives, inside group, BDR, and such. We sold that company to a venture capitalist group, which was really fun and exciting. Then from there, I started looking at what am I going to do next. That's where I ran into Zoom. A couple of my friends from Service Source started working at Zoom, and I was kind of stalking them through, I would say, LinkedIn, seeing how fun they're having. And at that point, I think is where I really started reflecting back and looking at what I like to do. And that's where I started thinking maybe sales enablement is where my passion is, because really across the board, even as a sales rep, my biggest goal was to really understanding objectives of the business and finding ways to helping people get there and making it very relevant to what they want to accomplish. So that turned into the same thing, understand the objectives of sales reps. What do they want to do? And that was really my passion, enabling them, training them, and that's where I was happy. Of course, I was happy winning humongous deals as well, but that portion of that really made things meaningful to me. So I was really lucky to be able to get into Zoom at an earlier stage before we went public, had a phenomenal team with Frank and Mike and Rich that joined the team. And we made some crazy things happen at Zoom. We went public and, journey goes on, right? So Frank retired and I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing these amazing things. And then that's where I got introduced to Fivetran and another amazing tech company, really promising, and it's just lots of great energy. And they just made me an offer that I couldn't resist. And here I am at Fivetran doing global enablement.
That's been an awesome career. Almost sounds like a 100-year career condensed into only a few years, which sounds
right.
really awesome. And maybe let me unpack that a little bit. So when you were at CBON and you're performing really well, what do you think was your secret to success as a rep? Like, what were you really good at, would you say, that helped you get promoted into these larger accounts, into team lead and management roles?
Yeah, I think one of the things that our VP used to tell me was that I was a great hunter and I would hustle all day, every day. I mean, there's not a secret sauce really there. So it was just like literally when you get to the right number of pipeline, I wouldn't just stop there. I would really go back and look for more because things happen. Even if you have the best sales training, even if you have the best playbook, even if you have the right stakeholders and the right plays in place, sometimes the stars don't align. So that really helped out. And the second thing was I really trusted the process. I really have been a believer of the process and believer of the fact that, hey, if you're implementing, it's working out for you, let's trust that. But in the meantime, always challenge yourself to take the next step. And that really came from digging into doing more research, more training on my own, and bringing in insights that really wasn't available. So I think all those things come together, made it happen. But definitely there is no way to make up for hustling, good old hustling all day, every day.
That's great. And that's so important as you move into enablement leadership roles too. So, and I want to dive into Zoom a little bit. Maybe give a little more detail on what employee number you were, how many people you enabled. I don't think people appreciate the scope of how literally Zoom is the biggest, literally one of the most successful SaaS companies of all time. So maybe dive into that in a little more detail so the listeners can kind of hear a little bit more around that amazing experience, because that's almost a once in a lifetime experience too.
It really was. And I'm forever appreciative for that experience. I mean, the culture and everything that came together, and everybody loves Eric Yuan, right? The CEO, and he has made it possible to not only love the company for Eric and what Zoom is, it just works, but really for the people who are there and the culture. And so again, I'm forever grateful for that. But yeah, I got in there pretty early. I was in this might not sound like a small number, but I was in number, I believe 750 or something like that. Now we're in, tens of thousands, I feel like, or they are. And that was really unique because we really got in there before this extreme growth started happening. And I think that's why they brought me on board. And what we found out there is there are a couple things. Before, I was really good at being able to strategize and being able to accomplish things for my own teams and really work with maybe marketing and developers and engineers here and there. At Zoom, what I learned really well is to bring all these teams together at all times to accomplish our, unique goals globally. And that was really exciting to me. That's when I started taking this global front that I've always been excited about doing, because we had, offices here in the United States. However, we had offices in Japan, in Amsterdam, France, London, and all these different cultures work differently. So when you say enablement, it's definitely not enablement one person or one team, but it is enablement everywhere. And you find out very quickly, your reps will tell you what you do in the United States is not going to work out what you do in overseas. And to that point, we had to find ways to scale really fast. And we really had to find out what is significant to productivity, what's significant to processes, and be able to implement and scale them quickly. And that really came from working with you and your team, Ted, at WorkRamp. Because without that, I'm only one person and I could only hold 3 global trainings a day per se, so that made a huge impact for us to having something like WorkRamp. Another thing that I learned is that it was really important, yes, for all teams to work together, but it was the most important that marketing and sales are like this, because if that's happening, everything else is going to kind of fall into space. Another thing that I learned from them is that no matter how much growth you have, keep the small company feeling in mind and appreciate your people, because that is really, really important. And that's appreciate your people when you're in enablement, appreciate your people when you're in leadership, appreciate your people when you're a rep. Those are some really, really important things. Did we have
ask a question about that last one, because I feel like Zoom does such a good job of this, because I'm always seeing their posts on LinkedIn. What would you give as a tip of how to appreciate reps from a sales enablement leadership perspective? What are some of the best practices that you've seen there that you learned and then you want to carry forward?
So I would say there's one thing, and that's the golden nugget: be there to listen. And that's the most important, because things change, right? The technology changes, how companies sell changes, how companies buy changes, and that means enablement needs and resources are going to change. If you're not making yourself available to listen, then you're behind the ball. Take the time and listen. I think that's the most important. And then from there, make sure that you're engaging the right stakeholders as often and fast as possible. I would say those are my biggest tips. No matter how big your company is, your CEO is having time to talk to you.
That's great. That's great. And that's such a good experience to kind of live through. And I think that sets you up for a ton of success at Fivetran. So if we kind of move forward to Fivetran, your new company, tell us a little bit about your experience so far, and then what is the playbook you're looking to build out? Love to hear a little bit more about your vision as you're enabling the next kind of generation fast growth companies.
That's a great question. So like I said, the reason why I came here is because they gave me an opportunity to work with a team that just seemed phenomenal. And not gonna lie, at the beginning, it was very nerve-wracking to leave in Zoom, because you've been building something out for so long and they're there now, and it's kind of like your baby. So leaving something like that behind and go to the next biggest thing is a little bit, nerve-wracking. So, but what happened there was that I met with the team, and the team really was embracing. And when I say the team, it's the CEO, the COO, the VP of sales and marketing and operations, every single person there. And what I heard from that is they are really wanting to work together to build something that's going to leave a legacy. And I've always been the person that's like, if I'm doing something, I want to leave a legacy. And guess what? If I have all these different people who are willing to do this with me and we're going to do this together, that is really exciting. So that was the initial feeling that I got from our conversations. And obviously I didn't know for sure, but once I started, I saw that was a reality, and that is exactly what's happening. We have an amazing team looking to work together. And what makes it fun and exciting too, it's an earlier company, right? We're a small startup, an amazing product that's solving a real problem. So the selling is going to come easy. So it's just up to us, the leadership, and to find out what really takes for our sales reps to really crush it. They were already doing a great job. And the playbook that I'm looking to build is that there were some lessons learned from Zoom. When we first started at Zoom, we as the enablement team created a very generic overall, almost like enablement paths for the different groups that we have. And what I learned there, that it was not the most optimal way of designing things. And in here, knowing that early on, I can start out with the right strategy. So your BDRs are going to have their own, SDRs are going to have their own enablement paths, and that really makes it really, really easy to be agile and scalable. And the other thing that I learned from, again, Zoom and implementation, we're a global group here at Fivetran as well. We have global offices that don't assume what's going to work at United States is going to be working in Dublin, London, because it is not going to. So just knowing these things and being prepared for that and being able to have the right conversations with the right stakeholders for these different enablement pieces are really exciting. So my first playbook is starting out with really enablement everywhere, which is leadership enablement, not first and foremost, because that's my scalability. Being able to create a pre-onboarding solution that's going to keep people exciting, happy, and fun to really join the company right away. Then we have our onboarding module to help our reps become as productive as possible right away. And then we have path to promotion paths that is going to be set up for how do you prepare yourself to the next role that you're wanting to go to, because we're also a very promote from within culture. So there's going to be a lot going on. So, and I would say it's not me building this, it's us building it. So that's what makes it even more exciting and fun.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like you have a lot of good programs in place to help Fivetran execute even better moving forward. So they're really lucky to have you on board to help them run those programs. So I've loved kind of learning a little bit more about your career, how you progress, and I think the listeners will be able to learn a lot from you and hopefully even pick your brain too as well. So at this point in the conversation, I'd like to ask just a series. I've actually got 4 what I call rapid fire questions. So I'm just going to ask a few questions, just a couple 30 seconds answer to each. And so I'll go through these, but it's really to bring to life how you run your programs and just some interesting facts about yourself too. So first question for you, what is the most creative or fun enablement activity you've ever run?
Okay, that's a really hard question because there is so many fun stuff. But it makes me think about the latest onboarding class academy that we did at Fivetran, and that was a Jeopardy game. So what you do is you go through a week of training, right? And I realize that we have human beings in front of us; they are not robots. At some point, Thursday evening around 4 o'clock, your brains are going to be melting out of your ears. So we're like, how do we really assess that the information that was delivered at these times are actually retained? So Jeopardy was created just for that, and we had different teams that divided into groups, and we played actual Jeopardy of every most important takeaway points from the sessions. And it was so much fun because you have a group of salespeople who are really, really competitive. They start, really getting into the mood and just, going for that prize. It was really, really fun and exciting. And we had one of our reps run it, and he was just really getting into it too. So I would say Jeopardy is a great way to assess if you have a very long-term training project of if people are getting it in a quick way. And it was really fun as well.
That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'll have to, if you have any videos of that, I'd love to see what it looks like.
Yes.
Next question for you. So what's the most memorable win or sales rep anecdote of something that you've influenced from an enablement perspective? And it could be any part of your career.
So there are a lot of them. Again, you have some questions that's really hard to pick the one, right?
Yeah.
I would say from enablement standpoint, one of our reps, Valen Betts at Zoom, was a phenomenal team player. And he's really helped me out with some very specific trainings back at Zoom. And I really coached him towards these, different leadership opportunities and taking more role in these different challenges. And he's worked with me really nicely. And any chance that I got, I highlighted him on LinkedIn to the leadership and such. And he just got promoted to an amazing role that that really suits him, and he's very well deserving. So I would say that's a big win for me and for my teams out there, reps. But if you're looking for a sales win, that will be I would say when we were in AT&T, one of my strat reps were going through a few $1 million deal that came down to the wire. And I mean, this rep knew everything, these are your loan wolves. I'm like, I don't think that I can do anything for Trent, but obviously I sat down with him and said, we're a sales rep, Trent. You're hearing that we're going to get this deal. So this is your commission goggles on, and we're not looking at the risks. If you were to find one thing that is not going to make it by the end of this month, what would that be? And he really took a step back. We did the entire account planning and we found our blocker. And we got in front of the blocker early on and really answered all of their concerns. And we were able to get that deal. And that put AT&T at a really, really sweet spot at the end of that quarter. So
that's awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially looking at the weaknesses of your deals is something that a lot of reps can't see unless they get a great coach like yourself. So that's awesome. Hopefully he gave you a nice gift card or spiff when he closed that.
We just got a nice high five.
Okay, nice. All right, just two more questions here. So this is kind of the anti-question is, what is one thing that you've done that has not worked out or you would recommend not doing that you've done in your enablement career that just kind of bombed, if any?
There are a lot of them. So, sales enablement is just like anything you try, and then some things work out really great, and some things really don't work out really great. But I would say one of them is that, especially if anyone who's in a fast-growing SaaS or tech company that's watching this, you are going to have leadership changes, right? It is going to happen. It's a part of the journey. And I'm the type of person, like I say, I hustle a lot. And I learned that it's important that even if you think that your new leadership knows what you're working on, and if you think that you're aligned with them, just make sure that you're in front of them early and often and you're aligned. So it's not coming down to the wire and you need to do a certification and it's midnight and you're trying to struggle to do that. I think that's really important as the leadership and the goals change and objectives change with the business. Get in front of these people, no matter what level they are, and really understand those objectives.
Cool, that's good. No crazy embarrassing stories, but I like that piece of advice though with leadership. So I'll give you the last question. This one's a great one. So what would you say from an enablement perspective is the favorite part of your job? Would you say that, hey, I wake up in the morning because I loved this part of my job? What is that for you?
I would say it's working with people and really creating, I almost feel like, I'm the enabler. So I'm helping people really get to their objectives. And in order to do that, I get to meet with a lot of people, listen to them, and I learn from them. So to me, that's very exciting. And to me, that's very rewarding as well. And as I mentioned, I get to do this globally. So I get to see different perspectives. And that's really what makes me get up every morning with a big smile on my face and say, hey, let's see what's in the list today and what's going to happen today.
That's awesome. Well, Petek, this has been a great discussion. Thanks for sharing so much about your career. I think a lot of people can learn from, hey, how do you transition from being a quota-carrying sales rep all the way into becoming a sales enablement leader like yourself. So I appreciate you taking some time with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ted. I love working with you and the team. You guys are awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Petek.